I tell you, I stuck myself in the thing.
I heard it. It was sparked.
We're shocking everybody. They're like, oh.
Where they? Where
In the back of the house. I have a big old area there for.
They made it so you guys could run out easy.
You do not like change.
What do they do?
No, it's like, it's getting the camo and let's go get this.
I just
Well,
see
these
one.
ones are for show boats. They have to have a strict diet.
Well, when you're on.
Somebody might eat them, I think.
What kind of birds are they?
I don't know what's in there.
I know they're white with brown neck.
Oh, they're, board birds.
Yes.
What are they, birds in the
Yeah. But I don't think my kids let me.
Once you put a name on them, it's
It's,
hard.
It's kinda.
It's a good life lesson.
Yeah, no doubt
The
about it.
first time's tough.
After that, I
After
remember the first one I killed was a sheep. And I thought,
Throat.
we just shoot it. And my grandpa said, no, you don't shoot it. What do you want me to do? About the knife, I was like, yeah, that poor thing suffered.
You still hear the sound, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, to this day,
Silence of the lambs. Really
That
happened.
wasn't so silent. It felt like a
my
buttermilk
grandpa
at the
used to always
time.
say, we gotta get those lambs when dad falls in love with them.
Finally, he
Yeah.
pushed me to the side.
Dad had a rough time.
Once.
We,
One
for each camera.
Remember the first one too?
I just thought it was crazy when they were chopping off the huevos and then throwing their meat on the
Yeah, Rocky Mountain oyster.
Yeah, they were good.
Sour, good to go.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Brazilian French tortilla, it's on.
You're done? Liam. Nice to meet you. The education reporter or something?
It's called
Can I have
the main.
Yes,
John Donnie knows about it.
And,
You never been to a meeting, that's why, bro. How do you wanna know?
Yeah, we all thinking you could log in.
I didn't think he knew anything past his house. He doesn't.
I need you to sign that.
30 Packers on the way, and that's it.
Dodger biscuits. You know what's more?
Yeah, they were gonna visit.
I gave the guy $20 one time, same thing happened.
You need some arms.
I did.
See on the head?
You have one?
No.
Or do you need an agenda?
No, I brought it.
No, grab
You knew what the house is?
Yeah. Relatively, yeah. Came on in November.
That's education. Yeah, they have with her.
Education, business, and
We have
credit.
a company meeting or party.
Yeah, it's kind of broad. Into business in general. This is actually my first job out of college.
Really? Oh, we can log into that.
No, he is working tonight.
Nice. It's a good job.
They switched him from that to a.
Yeah, exactly. How about you?
Just a year.
Oh, yeah?
Not my first time out of college, but it's, I've been just
You ready?
doing a year.
I'm just trying
So
to
I'm kind of
get
looking
the number for
Yeah.
Cameron.
You from around here?
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Where'd you go for college?
Highlands University in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So that's South Florida.
Yeah.
What is it, casual Wednesday or what?
No, I.
I almost say history.
Skiing the
Studying
student
journalism.
underneath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear us, Robert? My truck. water.
No?
Yeah, that's what they call it. Haven't had water since.
We were talking,
Yeah.
please, please. At my house. Just to make sure.
Please leave your message.
Kelly,
Yeah.
We'll just get started.
He's on hot pursuit.
Maybe. We'll call the meeting to order. 6:05. Mr. Secretary.
Member Cisneros, present. Secretary Cordova, present. President Rao,
Present.
Vice President Romero, and Member Lovato.
Present.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, to be a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
You're on pause. See, you wanna move things and don't remember.
I had one job.
On to the next item, approval of agenda.
Mr. President. New business. The first line there, it said student council did attend, and then I put didn't.
Oh,
Put that behind.
We're, yeah.
Yeah.
We're at approval of
Oh, I'm
agenda.
sorry, I thought you said.
Yeah.
I thought you said minutes, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Sorry, in my head.
Is there any changes to be made? I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it sits.
second.
Member Lovato,
Yes.
President Rao,
Yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes, and Member Cisneros.
Yes.
Now we want to approve, amend, or disapprove prior meeting minutes for item A, for the school board meeting on January 18th.
So it's just on the new business there. Just said student council did attend, because they were not here.
It was honor society.
Yeah, it was honor society.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with such changes.
Second. Member Cisneros.
Yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes. President Rao,
Yes.
and Member Lovato.
Yes. See, you're confused too. Get back quick now.
Next item is the welcome and introduction of guests. You're the only new on face I haven't seen.
Oh, I'm Liam Easley with Toastmasters.
Okay.
Oh, Towns News knows what Questa is, good.
Mhm.
I think you guys got out of town.
Thanks for being here. On to public comment, there's nothing. Presentations. Bus camera recording.
Cool. So I wanted to kind of show you guys this. Julie's kind of, I know that the last time that we had talked, you kind of asked about the recording. So we did move into these new bus camera recordings that cover all our buses. I pulled where there's no students, so there's no students in this, but what I wanted to show you is kind of the angles that we get for the purpose of, this right now is the infrared, because I guess they must take off early. So just kind of show you how the audio is awesome on it. I can switch amongst camera views, so if I have an incident that happens on channel 3, I can switch straight to channel 3. If I want to hear audio only on channel 3, I can actually go in, so if there's something said there was an incident in this area, I can listen to directly channel 3 and so on. So I kind of just wanted to show you that. This actually, right here on the side, will show me if there's any incidents, if there's any alarms that go off, and it'll show a red color. And his doesn't show any red, so that means he wasn't speeding. It shows that he didn't have any kids standing up on the bus. It picks up any of that type of stuff. And then I can go in straight to the incidents and look at that. But I just kind of wanted to show you guys that. If I want to go to a direct view, I can go to direct view. Cool things, it even shows me like under the seat, stuff like that. So,
Looking at 22.
yep, he's on it. So I just wanted to kind of share that briefly with you guys, show you guys what your investment with your bus cameras went into. Any questions on any of that stuff? And all our buses are equipped with them, including activity buses, route buses.
Our bus.
Even our bus is equipped, so every bus that we have, with the exception of one, and the reason that one didn't is because it ages out next year. So we didn't put that camera in that one for that purpose, because then they would have charged us to install and then uninstall and yeah. So,
So during the day, color feed versus
Yes.
more morning, early?
so early morning is gonna be your black and white, anytime that it's dark. But once you're on, we've had to use it a couple of times this week. I don't know if you've had to view it yet, Miss McDonald, but we had to pull it a couple of times this week, and it's nice color feed, pretty good image of the face, things like that, which you could kind of see even there in the black and white end. But it's been helpful with being able to crack down on incidences, and with the 3 camera view instead of just a 2 camera view, we pick up that middle section as well.
Any other questions or comments about the presentation? No more further, we move on to administrative and department reports. First up is maintenance, Mr. Robert.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
So I don't have a report there, but I don't know if you guys have any questions that you need to know about.
Just kind of touch on some of the stuff that you've been working on, Robert, for the past couple of weeks.
Well, we haven't had much going on. We had the water line break, and we had the sewer backup. Frozen water line at the Teetridge. You know, beyond that, it's a few things with the heaters that we did. Urinal, a couple of urinals and the pipes that we had to redo at the, or I had to do at the high school inside the gym. Handed out all the radios, except for maybe about 5 or 6 at the elementary. And those are the ones for all the teachers. Yeah, that's about as much as I could, like big stuff that I could think of.
Did we get the salt
We did.
stuff working?
So we have the chute on order. We haven't received that yet, but we do have the actual spreader sitting over here. We do have the one on the back of the tractor that is up and running. So that's just, it's small. That's the only thing. So it's not a big load. So we're waiting on the chute, which will actually disperse it and shoot it out. We did get some salt, cinders and salt. We did get 10 tons of that. Ran us about $600 for 10 tons of that. And so that is piled back here. And so we're starting to try to use that now with the ice as much as possible.
President, did we get the other lift station done up there?
The which one? The one at the Teetridge?
Yeah.
So we had 2 people come out. We had both Phoenix and Marshall come out, or top up plumbing. And so they both came out. They did flag to mark your areas where we had electrical and had any type of other lines running. The quote came in for one of them at this point, and we're waiting for the second quote on that. As soon as we get that, we'll get that in front of you guys. I think the first quote came in at about $8,500. That included, and then I don't recall I haven't seen the second quote yet. So as soon as we get that, we'll bring both those quotes to you guys.
What is this for?
This would be to rerun the line at the teacherage. What the issue is that it's seeping down. There's no clean out, so if it's clogged, they can't get into it because the line is, far would you say that line is? It runs from the teacherage to the front gate, about,
Yeah, it's about 300 feet. So it needs clean out right basically every 100 feet, and there's none of those. What they're looking at now is maybe replacing that pump and making a bigger hole, so that way the holding tank's a lot bigger than what it is right now. That's about the gist of what both of them are doing. One of them, they're also looking to maybe putting 2 pumps like we have behind the elementary, so that way if there is something that goes on, we can have another pump as a backup. That way we don't have this issue again.
This place that was put in by one of those companies in 18?
well, that's
It
why
lasted 4 years?
Well, we changed the pump.
we changed the
Yeah.
pump just recently. But see what
It was
we,
them that designed it to put it in.
Yeah.
It's like, we're gonna hire the same company that
well, that's why we're waiting,
fixed the same.
that's why we're waiting on the second.
You would think that there would be a code for that distance to at least have clean out.
Well, you should have a clean out every 100 feet.
You know?
That's kinda hard to miss.
And there's
And
no
it's a
clean.
holding tank?
It's a lift station.
Yeah, the lift station.
That's the pump out. So is it functional right now, or is it still,
No, it's not functional.
it's leaking right now?
And that's how we, with the frozen line, that's how we discovered that it was starting to
Go under the house?
go under the house and seep into the ground. So we did have Phoenix come out. Phoenix was out yesterday, and they did, and they're the ones that actually flagged off the stuff. So that's the quote that we're waiting on.
Anything else under maintenance? Thank you, Robert, appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Move on to sped.
No news.
Mm,
We're still waiting for our audit, our indicator to come back. I called them and they said it'll take another couple of weeks because they're in the middle of it.
Staffing's good.
Everything's good. I'm starting to work on our caseloads for next year already.
Yeah, we actually need to start looking at advertising for staffing. The reason is because a couple of our teachers are on that J1 visa, and the J1 visa will expire at the end of this year. So with that being, we'll lose a couple of teachers in that area. So we're looking at starting advertisement now, so that we can see what we can get in. We did have a lot of stuff going on with SPED in the sense of changes that are coming in play. As in the way students are requested to be tested, our response, things like that. When they do evaluations and all, as that gets close to, I'll let Miss Aragon kind of,
That's
Yes,
so
a little
that's
bit,
July
yeah.
1st too.
Yeah.
With the new
so
ID,
there's a lot of new changes coming into with SPED.
And the caseloads, are they equally like divided, or how does that work? Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they can't have over an 1.0 FTE.
And none of our teachers are currently close to that 1.0. We keep them pretty about 0.5. Most of them are 0.5 FTEs, which carries about 12 to 16 kids on a caseload. So, it's not a super high number where you've got like 20 some kids on your caseload and things like that. We need the FTEs in there just because it's, you never know. You get four level fours or four level fours, and that's almost a 1.0. So that's why you got to kind of disperse them amongst. Yeah.
We started our SPIRE program on Monday. Our reading.
Good.
Yeah.
How's that going? Or it starts Monday, or
It started this
started.
past Monday.
Good.
So far they said it's going well.
What's the age level on that?
K through 6.
Oh, good.
So Aspire, I know you guys had approved that a while back. It's basically an additional reading program, and it's a pull-out reading program. So it's giving that individualized help to the students that need that individual help. So Ms. Aragon and her team kind of did the addendums, did the schedules, all that good stuff, and we made sure to have it up and rolling as soon as possible once we got all the materials up.
Parents are very happy.
So, and I guess forgive me, but like, where you say 12 to 16 students, or is that just per one person, or? Yeah.
So we have about 72 kids on an IEP in the district, ranging from level 1 to level 4, including gifted, because gifted falls under the umbrella of special education. And so they would carry a case manager and those type of things. So when I say 12 to 16 kids, that means that they're in charge of their case management, which is their IEPs, making sure accommodations are being followed, those type of things, as well as providing some services to these kids. The nice thing is that some of these kids can be serviced in group settings, some of them can be serviced in inclusion settings, which means that they're not actually being pulled out from a general ed classroom. The teacher, the special education teacher, is actually going in and working with them on whatever's going on in that general ed classroom. So it's not, you're not saying, well, you got 16 kids every day that you're pulling out of class or whatever. Some of them do require that, just depending on what their individual needs are.
But you need to take into account about our educational systems that help us with that transition as well too, so.
So like the special ed teachers have time for meetings and everything else if they need to? Okay.
Yes, that's built into their schedules for that reason.
Is there any 30B?
There's some things, let me think about that, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, sure, bring it to the table.
Yeah, cause it's, as Mr. Maldonado, I'll think of something and I'll go straight to him and say, I need this, this, and this, so, or what is this, how does this work, so. It's going well, we've got, let me see, I think 4 or 5 new students in the past couple of weeks. I think, how many did you get, Miss Kimber? 2? Or 2 new ones?
2 new ones.
And we got another 2 at the elementary this past week. So.
Good news.
So when I wrote that report, it was like after the report, that's when I said that this stuff happened, so.
All right. Technology. Yeah.
You know, it's difficult, but we do this every day.
So his report's there, they've been coming out the way they said. I think they'll be out here Thursday and Friday again of this week. We did work with an issue yesterday, I'm not sure exactly what that issue was, but we did lose service. What happened was we had to reset the entire network, which I believe the plan from this point on is to do this, to reset, kind of run a reset at least on a
Reboot.
reboot, not a reset.
Reset will destroy your network.
A reboot on a every other Saturday basis is what the plan is. So that whatever the reboot needed to happen in order for us to pull the network back up, he'll set that up to automatically happen on a every other Saturday basis, so 2 times a month. He did we get those other smart boards up, Ms. McDonald?
One of them is up to getting put up on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do have some additional smart boards that we are able to scrounge up that have been sitting in a storage room that we found, and so we did get those up. So I believe you have every teacher right now at this point that has a smart board in their classroom. So at the high school, we have every teacher has a smart board. At the elementary, every classroom except for one, which is a storage room right now, has a smart board in it. So they did get those all up and installed, which is something that we wanted. He did get the TVs installed in the esports room, which is off and kicked off this week. We did have competition starting today, right? Today was our first competition, Mr. Griego. Yeah. So we did get our first competition in, and so kids are enjoying it, and it's moving forward. He did this one, of course, that you guys see up here. Let's see what else.
Today was the first competition of what?
Esports. Super Smash Brothers today. Super Smash Brothers, team of 4. So
They forfeited though?
Huh?
They forfeited?
they were actually able to play.
Oh, they made it.
He's wearing the Smash Brothers hat or
He
something.
should. He should. So he's been on top of it. He's even went and recruited at the recruited at during lunchtime and stuff like that. So he's been really happy with his esports and his esports classroom or
It's a
lab,
cool
I
room.
guess. Yeah, it's a pretty cool
It's a cool
room.
room.
Oh. That's the picture. You a gamer.
So, any other questions on?
Are the smart boards, how old are they?
They're pretty old. They're dated. They're probably I believe they're like a 4 touch, which means you can have 4 fingers on it at one time and you can move. Where the new ones are like 20 touch now. So you could have, which I don't know what you need 20 touch for exactly, but they are pretty outdated. They're probably about, do you remember when they purchased those? Like
It's
2000.
been a while.
I think he said.
Some of them are newer than others, but
He
there's
said-
probably,
I think he said like 2000. The ones that he pulled from that room were like 2014.
yeah.
And so then the ones that are up are anywhere between 14 and 18. They were a purchase of smart boards.
Didn't we get some not too long ago?
Yeah, those are the new ones on the other classrooms.
Yeah.
These are just something they found that some of the classrooms were missing.
Yeah.
So they put some of these older ones. They do the same thing. They're just a little slower. And you
Not
gotta,
as responsive, yeah.
yeah.
But they pull what they need to pull, like, you know, that they're used for some of the presentations and things that they're doing, they're doing the job. They're not anything that eventually we probably would need to start. That thing is the technology is you replace 5 of them and then you put 5 new ones, and by the time you get the next 5, you're already on a whole new cycle. So it's, you know, something that to take a look at later on, but I don't feel it's something that we need to jump at right this instant. They're connecting. Some of them, like these ones that he did install just recently, the updating is a little difficult with it. Like the teachers are actually having to set of wires, being able to run it. They're having to plug in and do that, which isn't a huge issue, but they're still having to because we couldn't get the wireless component to update to meet the newer laptops and those type of things.
What about the door at the Alta Vista?
Which one?
The one that was having an issue with the lock.
They
The
were-
access.
They were working on that last time we were.
So they are gonna have to completely order the whole new system for that one. I haven't seen a quote come through for that one yet, but I do know that those door access are pricey. What's happening is the magnet's not.
The issue was the wiring, not even anything else.
So
Did they find that
They
issue?
did find the wiring, and remember, I know last time we kind of talked that there was what word did he use? There was noise that he couldn't figure out. They did figure out what that was. They did disconnect whatever that was. I believe it was I don't remember, and Miss Romero was not here, so I can't remember what they told her. It was something to the extent of not a battery, it was something else that had been connected in that room as well. And so it was picking that up, and so that's why they weren't able to, but they did remove that and were able to find that. So I will follow up with them on the door, but I do know that he got the magnet working for like a day, and then it gave again. So that's kind of where we're having, so it may not be the magnet exactly, it may just be the wiring that's running from there to there, and then that's the tracing of that line, but those, like they said, those lines because it runs back upstairs is,
Like what I'm saying, I'd hate to
well, it's.
order the kit
And then
when
it is the
all we
same
gotta do
thing.
is replace the wiring. It could be chewed up or something.
Yeah.
'Cause it sounds like it's shorting out and the magnet's staying off for a little bit and then just not enough voltage.
And that could be what it is. They did order, because those things do have battery backups, they did order the battery backups because right now there was no battery backup in there.
You said there was.
Huh?
You said there was.
There's a battery backup for the server room.
But
The
they were.
server, not for the
Not for those.
system.
Yeah, so all the batteries that were in there were removed from there. So they did replace or put an order for those to replace those. So that's kind of where they're at. I'll get with their guy tomorrow, and kind of see where they're at and what they're doing with that next step, but I do know that their focus was that door and the gym door, that outside access, that would be, right, off of the playground.
Time to check the voltage and the amperage, is what he's getting at the door. And that will help you determine if it's wiring or not.
Okay.
Anything else for technology? Nothing else, we'll go on to athletics.
Mr. Griego? My board report from you guys, and John said sports keep up to date. Official baseball practice started Monday, but we're not gonna start for a few more weeks because we're gonna get basketball athletes and everybody else gotta catch up. And then track starts next week. But we're gonna just start for the athletes that aren't in any sports. We're just gonna run kind of an open gym, get them in the gym, working out, lifting weights. Run a few laps there on the top.
How many people do we have in esports?
Hi.
How many kids do we have in esports?
Yeah, he said he had enough to fill every one of the games that they're playing, which the games they're playing, they're NBA 2K23, which I believe only needs one person. He said he has one and an alternate on that. Madden 22 or 23, that's another one-player game, and he said he does have a person. And then your Mario Kart is a team of 4, so he filled a team of 4. And then he also filled a team of 4 of Super Smash Brothers, and those are the ones that we chose to play to start off this year. And he said those are the easiest ones to kind of, but they're kind of growing, and so he says I want to keep them, but he was able to at least fill all those things. Some of the ones are other sport athletes too, basketball players, baseball players, those type of things. Nice thing, I guess, with the esports is they only have to, it's a one-day deal. It's a Wednesday for 2 games and Thursday for the other 2 games that they're playing, so it's only a Wednesday, Thursday. And about 45-minute competition. Yeah. 40-minute competition. Yeah. So.
Hey, it's different, but I mean, that's 6 kids that are doing something else too, I think.
If we had some old bleachers, we could put in
We
the
should.
back on the back.
Yeah. So no, it's been pretty cool. You guys gotta check out that room one of these days. He set it up pretty nice. It's upstairs in the high school. One that, what do you guys used to call that?
The dungeon.
The dungeon. And so it's a nice room.
The corner that has no windows.
Mhm. So it's a nice little setup he has there. Yeah. So.
Cool.
And you have parent appreciation coming up.
Parent appreciation for last weekend, and we got a parent meeting for spring sports coming Friday.
Is it ready?
Yeah, it's Friday.
Probably some stuff up.
We're gonna have a robocall get sent out.
So the only thing that with the parent appreciation is I know that was also the night we were looking at doing our forum, so we might need to move our forum so that our parents can go to parent appreciation night. Hopefully get a good turnout at that game on the 13th. It's been busy. You guys went to the coaches clinic.
Yeah, we
kind of.
track coaches clinic. It was good turnout.
Cheer.
And cheer.
Looks like.
Cheer did awesome.
Cheer.
Cheer went to a big what do they call them, tournaments?
Yeah, competition.
in Hope, and they ended up second, which a lot of 3A and 4A schools were also at that, so they did pretty good and pretty awesome, and it was good to get those results back from those girls.
We don't put on any kind of competitions yet?
Yeah, we
We
did.
did in December.
We did. We hosted one on
That's the
the
first year ever.
We hosted one on the 18th of December, which was kind of early. We did it for that reason to kind of
How was the turnout?
draw.
It was great.
We drew 5 teams in. We brought 5 teams in, including, and then 2 youth teams that are out of house. And so we had, you know, a rotation of seven teams that competed. Turnout was awesome. We filled up, honestly, we filled up the whole one side of the bleachers,
What
and
was the revenue?
revenue was like $3,200 on that.
There's no sitting room.
Yeah, there's no sitting room there. It was nice to see that and fill it up. On top of that, the concession generated about another $1,700-$1,800. And then
The
they
announcer
did,
was on top of it.
the announcer did an awesome job. We need to get the announcer to do the rest of the stuff.
Professional.
And then, and then, they did what they call shout outs, and those were shout outs during the things, which was money that went back to cheer as well. And they made about another $900 off of that, so that was a, so it was a good money maker. It really was. You know, and it was pretty quick event. Started at 10 in the morning, and it was done by 1:30. So, yeah.
That's a quick event, you're right.
Yeah, it was a quick event, and it was,
The other one?
yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a nice thing. I wanna keep something like that going in the district, and that was kind of when you guys agreed to purchase the additional mats to give them enough mats as a competition. One of the things that was said is I wanna see competitions here, and so we reached out and said, we're hosting one way or another. I know it took a little bit of, little bit of panic, huh?
Yeah.
I know that the cheer coach like, we need to do walkthroughs. I'm like, I don't even know what a walkthrough is. I don't know what any of this stuff is. But we got it down. We figured out. You know, and support. Even on her end, she got a lot of volunteers to come and help. So we weren't paying out hundreds of dollars to workers or anything like that. A lot of volunteers. So it was a good event to put on.
Do you know what it cost?
The cost of it?
What the expenses?
Well, your normal gym cost, but then we did have to get a second set of mats from Taos just because you have to have a warm-up area. So Taos charges, I believe, like $300 to transport the mats to us and clean the mats and do all that stuff. And so I think total cost with awards and things like that was probably about $800 to $900 total cost. So profit-wise, out of $3,000, we still made a pretty good profit off of it. And then I think we had to pay the officials, because they were actual NMA officials that came in. They weren't just anybody off the street that knew how to do cheers. So they brought in, I think, 3 officials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty cheap though.
Yeah, they were cheap. They were cheaper than any other officials we
Yeah.
bring in.
Any other questions for athletics?
Yeah.
High school principal.
All right, so you have my newsletter in front of you. That's my report. Just to highlight some things, the calendar, you'll see we are very, very busy people as always. Couple of highlights, Coach mentioned parent appreciation on the 13th. We're having our FAFSA financial aid night for seniors next week on Wednesday. For all our seniors and juniors that want to kind of come get a head start on what that process is. So we'll be hosting that. And I think Coach covered most of the other events. On the other side, you'll see some of our news, some highlights. The snow sports program is going very, very well. We took 75 kids today in our exceptional program, paid for by you guys and the grant. And it's just ridiculously positive. I don't know, Mr. Maldonado and I have been taking turns kind of being up there for supervision, and it's just incredibly positive. I know some of you guys go with your kids, and I appreciate that. It redefines relationships with teachers and kids are outside having adventure and learning and getting career exploration stuff done, and it's pretty cool. I know Honor Society spoke to you guys last board meeting. They are continuing with their service learning projects. They've expanded into, they're going to do Dr. Seuss Day here at the elementary school. They turned in their box designs to Mr. Warnock's woodshop class. So the boxes are being designed, we're getting the wood this week. So they'll be building those in the village Questa for the free food boxes. And they're also having a blood drive. They're just out of hand. Doing awesome work. And I really want to give Ms. Auntie Stevan a huge shout out for that because she is just on it. The Bowtech building is moving right along. Overhead door was supposed to receive our doors today. And so that we are on their work list for the next couple weeks to get the doors finished up in the tech building. We've been cleaning out, throwing out. The dumpsters came from the county. Thank you very much. So we've been in the process of cleaning and kind of that ties into that next point of dual credit. We have 32 kids enrolled in dual credit at the high school for college credit. That does include the welding MC3 program. Those kids will be getting college credit for that accreditation this spring. So pretty stoked. We have our Builders Guild on board. Been working with them because we have to have a Builders Guild oversight for the apprenticeship piece. Art Sparks out of Los Alamos will be our contact there. He's been great. So just super thrilled. And I know you know this too, but both Mr. Warnock and Mr. Baca will be certified to give that credit. So that gives us 3 instructors at the high school, including Ms. Diane Leon, who are certified to give college credit at our facility, and we are expanding that as well. Some dates, track, baseball, coach cover, there's the blood drive, come give blood. We'll give the SAT in March. Science night is going to be a joint night with Twirl out of Taos, bringing in some hands-on science stuff that Honor Society will do with high schoolers will demonstrate for elementary school kind of thing. So that's going to be a really cool night. And the Honor Society induction is in April, and you'll see those dates kind of moving ahead. And there's pictures of our cuties. Again, shout out to Cheer for their second place win. There's nine teams. And yeah, it was 3A, 4A schools, so they really held their own. And that's Honor Society meeting with the mayor to discuss their food boxes. So I did give you guys another printout. This is something that we're going to be rolling out at the high school. Peñasco just instituted this. It's a very cool app. It's called the Stop It app, and it is a two-way communication app. And what it allows is anonymous advisement of us of concerns students have in real time. And so myself, Mr. Maldonado, and our resource officer would have the app, and kids would report anything from we see something unsafe to my friend says he doesn't get food at home, he's always hungry, to I have thoughts of hurting myself. So the app actually in itself, it has even a button that connects to the National Suicide Hotline. So it's backed up by professionals. And I do have for you guys, I'd ask him to come do a more extensive presentation at your next board meeting. It has an escalation system, which I can share with you guys too. If it is something that their 24/7 people feel needs escalating to law enforcement, we put those pathways in place. So I was extremely impressed. REC 5 received a grant to pay for this. It's free of cost to the district. And then NIMCIA will probably be funding it within the next 18 months. So I'm stoked. The idea is it gives, even if kids are concerned that someone is vaping or that kind of thing, they can report that, and there's no fear of retaliation because they can do it on their own time. It also has a push out component for things like if we have a safety incident like a lockdown, it would push out to any student phones that have the app. So and only 3 of us in the district have the capacity to push out that information. So I definitely want to present it more extensively to you guys. I'm extremely impressed. Their qualifications, which I can also send to you guys, kind of ran out of time because I met with them yesterday. Trained staff, trained professionals, trained dispatch staff, trained counseling staff. So these people on the receiving end of this information are highly qualified. They have an after-hours protocol, that kind of thing. So this is available to kids. Peñasco's having huge success with it. So I'm pretty excited, and I think it solves a lot of safety concerns in a small school that sometimes we face of kids having a barrier to reaching out to adults because they're concerned. So anyway, I threw that in there because I did just meet with him yesterday. Like I said, Peñasco's very excited. They're working with, I think, 23 districts in the state. Once NIMCIA brings them on, it'll be just about all of us. So that is that on the safety end. Other than that, any questions we are rocking and rolling. So,
There's no cost to it.
no cost. Like REC5 received a federal grant through ESSER to fund for districts, so they'll cover our costs for this year and next school year, and highly likely NMCA will cover costs after that.
What's the cost of it?
It's only like $3,500 a year, period, but that cost is covered for the next 2 school years.
So a big portion of why, and I can kind of touch once I get into my report too, is the big reason that we started looking at all these types of things is that we're looking at, you know, when we did have our student representatives kind of talk about things that they would like to see, and they feel that the education, the safety, these type of things, we are a safe district. We're a district that, like I said, we're one of the few districts in the state that have an armed security guard, things like that, not for the purpose because we have major issues, but for the purpose of response, things like that. We know we're in a rural, small district. So one of the things is when we started reaching out, we started reaching to resources, and I have another one that we've been in communication with that actually provides classes to students that, I know that we've talked about the education on drug use, the education on being able to do, and so if we can start identifying, we have the ability now to start, and that will come to you. It's not going to come to you tonight because I just got the info this morning too, but I do have like a brief of this additional, some of these classes that are available to our students, and and again, it's a minimal cost to the district. It's about $2,500 a year. Provides 11 classes ranging from bullying classes to I know our students kind of spoke and said, well, we need ways to be able to handle our problems and deal with these type of things. There's another class in there called like THC 101, so it kind of gives you the breakdown of what exactly you're putting into your body, what exactly this is, and so we kind of worked with them, and I said, is this a live instructor, is it just a completely virtual option? And they said it's either or. You can go with the live instructor where it can be either video, or we can get the stuff out to your teachers themselves, and we can teach these classes. And then I get into my report, I'll kind of let Ms. McDonald finish up, and I'll kind of tell you more where we're headed with UNM Taos and these type of things with the conversations that we just had with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really good month for progress on those fronts, so any questions you guys have?
For the welding, they can get also credit through 4-H if they wanna,
Okay, absolutely.
contact the 4-H board.
Yeah. I can talk to Felice too, cause I know she's really,
Yeah, Felice would probably be a
Yeah.
good contact for that
Okay.
as well, but that, and then I
Awesome.
don't know, whenever we get the agricultural part of
Yep.
it,
we kinda have it going, we have sheep now, but not officially, but we have more than sheep. No,
They're still
every
there?
once in a while, not lately,
They come and go.
but they do. No, but yeah, I think that's a great idea, I think that'd be huge, cause that's definitely the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Mr. President, on the snows program, I know a bunch of us been up there, but when the kids go up the mountain, do we have like a program, how do we have chaperones or?
Mhm.
are they
There
just
should be
free?
an adult up there. We try to staff it with our teachers who are capable of being up there, have the skills to be up there. It should be. Yeah, and that's part of the challenge of scheduling the teachers to go, depending on the teacher's skill level. But there should be an adult up top. And typically, especially with the older kids that have phones, we make sure that the teacher has a contact way, that they know who the teacher is up top and that kind of thing. So they can definitely get in touch with them. But it's something we need to make sure that happens, because we don't want them up there alone.
any other questions for high school, please? And then we'll move on to superintendent report.
Cool, so you do have my report in front of you, kind of some of the same things I kind of touched, we did complete, so I'll kind of start with, we had an awesome meeting with, Dr. Baca. She's in charge of Taos, UNM Taos, not dual credit, it's
The career technical.
career tech,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, she was there last week.
Yeah.
Yes, so we did have an awesome meeting with her. She kind of put us, so I'll just kind of jump around a little bit, but she put us in touch with a grant writer. And so we worked with this grant writer, her name was Ann Black. And we worked with this grant writer to complete the first portion of the grant for the Heinrich. So that did get submitted. I don't know how many were submitted based on that, but we did get it in on time. Felt that it was a pretty well written portion on all ends. Ms. McDonald did pull a lot of data, so we did pull a lot of things, and added in, and then this Miss Black kind of helped us with the actual grant portion. Second portion of this, and we need to get this price started within the next couple of weeks because the second portion of the application is due on the 21st of April. And with this, we'll need some letters of support, so I'll start reaching out to like Kit Carson and some other places to try to get that letter of support. We did incorporate some things like, we're looking at solar, we're looking at these type of things, so projects that we could kind of collaborate on. She says anything that we can kind of put. The nice thing was the connection with her kind of gives us the ability now to start looking at other state grants that might be out there, other federal grants. She said, honestly, this is the first time, and what was the other lady's name, do you remember? Felicity. Felicity, I don't remember her last name, but she said that this is the first time that Questa Schools has actually gone after a federal grant. The village has done a couple, but this is the first time that Questa Schools is actually, so she's happy to see, which we hope to keep that connection with Miss Black and Felicity to kind of keep those things going. It's, nice to have that additional support, when you're writing a grant, you're kind of looking at it from a different side, but when you have people that have actually been doing this for a living, then it's so much easier to bring that data back to them and kind of put it down on paper. So just kind of want to give an update on that. That did get submitted. That was a pretty lengthy process in itself. We had from everything from getting square footage to the buildings, years the buildings were built, to a needs assessment, which we actually have to do the needs assessment ourselves through a federal website that they kind of take you through and ask you a million questions, and you have to go in and fill in. There was another part with the federal. There was a lot of federal things like federal IDs, federal numbers, federal
Census tracts, we had to
census
do the
tracts.
demographics
Yeah, we
based on
have
our
to pull
census
the
tracts. It was
we
a
have to
lot.
pull the
It was a
census
pain.
census tracts for all that stuff, and it was a pretty lengthy process, but we did get it in. So we did get. I hope to hear something in the next few weeks on that. But what Miss Black had said is, even if you don't hear back, you want to start the process now because it's a lengthy process with the rest of the application, which will be like even resumes from our team, and it's a like a 10 bullets of different things that we have to include in that. So we're starting to work on that now. I know I was doctoring up my resume a little bit, and Miss McDonald I know was too, and so we're kind of getting that stuff situated and done. So with the UNM Taos, we did meet with Dr. Baca, and what we did talk about was looking at next year and what we want to do in terms of what we look at with dual credit. Right now we do have some courses that are dual credit courses, but what we would like to see, and the recommendation really came strong from even UNM Taos, is we have staff that's certified to teach here on campus. And so depending on the way our Friday runs or looks, what we would like to see is going back to a Friday school, but with the understanding in the Friday school is we can have college professors or our teachers that are certified to teach, providing education to our students and getting the credit at UNM Taos. So back to like a Friday college is what we're looking at. But housed here, because one of the conversations that came up is transportation. Transportation's a pain to get the kids over there, to get those kids, picked up, brought back. And so the idea kind of came, well, why can't we just do it here? We have staff here, we have people here right now. So the idea kind of opened up with like even using our kitchen to be able to do, with the understanding that we open this up also not to just to our students, but to the community. So, for teaching welding class, we can also have community members that are taking these welding classes for credit as well, so that we can start to build that relation with UNM House. So that's kind of our vision that we're moving towards right now. And so we hope to have something.
Who would pay those teachers if the community comes in?
They would.
They do.
They do.
Even our teachers, they
Yes.
provide that instructor stipend.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All they would need from us is the facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and of course, we would develop an MOU with them, but they would need our facilities to be able, so, we would probably be responsible for cleaning those facilities and things like that, but, as paying for like the teachers and those type of things, it would come out of UNM House.
So they would share class with our students?
They would share a class with
Potentially,
their
yeah.
students.
Which is how that works in the live classes anyway. Yeah. It's just a college course.
Yeah,
Anyone
it'd be a
takes it.
college course,
So they'd be adults?
could be adults.
Mhm.
So do they have to have their background checks and all that kind of stuff when they go on campus?
It would depend on how it would fall, because it would fall under, if it would fall under Tauss's MOU, where if Tauss would cover like the liability end, UNM Tauss, we would have to look into that, because I'm not sure like how the whole, like if one of our students was to go to UNM Tauss, how exactly the fall back and forth, because, and they may have to, we can look into that. I do know that like when we have like student teachers that come into our campus and those type of things from UNM Taos or any other campus, the first thing they have to have is their background check in. So that's something that we can definitely check on how that works. So, I think though just kicking off that conversation was a big part of that conversation, having them actually come out. It's been a while since we've seen a representative from UNM come this direction. And really part of it was initiated on both ends. I know Ms. McDonald and Mr. Salazar kind of initiated, but even with Dr. Baca, she says, I've been in your campus and I see banners, New Mexico Highlands, New Mexico State, and I said, well, those people come and talk to us. We don't see UNM Taos, we don't see UNM at all come this direction. So she said that they want to kind of rebuild that relationship, because technically they're 20 minutes down the road. Which makes more sense than some of these colleges that are 3 hours down the road, so getting those people in. Some of the things, even looking at, we're a district that has the luxury of having a nurse that has a BSN. So with that BSN, teaching some of these classes to get even our students, CNAs, that can walk into something as a CNA, and then hopefully move from a CNA to an RN to whatever else, BSN, MEd, what's the other one, Masters and
MSN.
Yeah, so being able to move them in that direction, but if we can get them at this young age, and then, we kind of brought up that some of our teachers have the ability to start even like education classes. We're getting to that point where we're not seeing teachers you're not graduating from colleges, 40, 50 teachers anymore. Now you're lucky if you have 2 or 3 that are graduating from some of these colleges, and you're trying to pull those 2 or 3 into your direction. So if we could start getting some of our young kids that are juniors and seniors interested in that, and teaching them those basics and getting them something maybe even close to an associate's degree in early childhood or in elementary or secondary education, then getting them off to 2 years to a 4-year college and getting them 2 years additional, and getting them, through UNM or something to that extent, and getting them a BA in that, and then bringing that service back. At least we're starting to introduce that. So that was kind of our discussion, and we have the staffing to be able to do that. We have a lot of teachers in this district that have master's degrees, that have the ability to kind of teach those type of courses. So that's kind of where we kicked off, and I was, actually, we were pretty excited when we left that meeting, and even to get her to come out here. Most time the first time I think we met with them, President Rael, they wanted us over there at their facility, and to get them out here was, look, we're here, we're here, we've been providing education to these kids, and what can we do to help both the kids and the community. So that's kind of a big thing. Other things that have been going on. I did submit the rest of the legislative letters to the legislative councils. Got some pretty positive feedback on those type of things. They get some feedback of areas that we need to look in improving and kind of getting, but again, they said that they hadn't seen a letter into the the council, and I do give Gabe a lot of credit for that. Gabe drafted a lot of those letters. Then it was just kind of touching them up and doing that, but we did get those out. And you know, when I heard back from one said, you know, it's been a while since Questa has submitted a capital outlay letter, you know, so you know, we're glad to see you guys looking at this type of stuff, and so we're hoping to kind of hear back from some of them. That's really the main points. Any questions on? So let me touch on a little bit on the portion where we're talking of Miss McDonald. Now that I'm looking at that, so there's a program called Online Prevention and Intervention, and it's basically their courses. And you know, I know that when we had our students talk to us, they said, you know, we want to see the education part. We want to be educated on these type of things, and we want to see, you know, not just be told, okay, we violated policy and now we're out of our sport, but how do we get the help? And so we've been doing a lot of research on who to pull and how to pull and reaching out to people. And so this company kind of came across, and we reached out to them, and you know, they provide us a couple free demos, and so we want to see what those demos are. That was where the question came: is it these live classes, or are they, you know, recorded? How are they? It's kind of a option of whatever we choose type of deal. And what we're looking at is there's 11 classes that they offer. The 11 classes are range from, like I said, from one of them is called like THC 101. When I kind of looked into what THC 101 was, it was the basics of what the makeup of THC is, what it does to you over the time, these type of things. And it was just a brief outline of this course. But you know, I think that when we're listening to our students, and our students are telling us, hey, we need also some education on this type of stuff. These type of things will give us that ability to kind of give us that education. We've also reached out to quite a few different organizations that work with, you know, youth and drugs and any type of things like that. And you know, we've had a lot of people say, we'll come in as guest speakers and we'll come in. So we're trying to set dates for those type of things just to bring them in. I feel that at this time, you know, we can use it with our athlete policy, but at the same time, it might be something positive to put into the whole general, maybe during a health class, we have this presentation, these type of things. You know, not saying that we have a major issue with any type of drugs or anything like that, but what we want to do is kind of start educating. You know, I think when we listened to our students and they talked, and they basically said that day, you know, okay, we got penalized, but what happens next? And I think that the next part needs to be for all our students is to understand, you know, understand what they're putting into themselves, what they're doing. And I think the same even goes like with, you know, there's even one about alcohol, about the effects that alcohol has on the body, you know, and those type of things. And, you know, it even goes into like the bullying end with these courses and things like that. So, you know, I think that is something that we really need to take a look at. Once I get more information, I will bring it to you guys to kind of see a little bit deeper. It's about $2,500 a year for our entire, so it's, you're not paying per class, you have the ability to have 11 classes, and it's $2,500 unlimited license, right? And is that what they said? Unlimited license for your campus.
Right.
Yeah. So unlimited license for our campus. So if we have 137 students, and 137 students have access to this or whatever, it's not, you know, it's not like some of these things that they charge you per student or per license or per anything like that.
Any other questions for Superintendent report? Not hearing any, we will move on to new business. Item A, review and discuss calendar survey.
So presented to you guys is a calendar survey. I know that we asked to have this ready by the meeting so that we could get it out as quickly as possible. This is the format that it would look if we were to go a paper version. We could use this paper version. The QR code on the bottom if you want to scan it. It's not live yet. We didn't push it out yet. But if you did click on the QR code, it will take you, it's the same format, same questioning. We wanted to do is bring this to you guys so that you guys could review it, see if the questions are what you're looking for, if they're worded the way you would like them worded, or if there's things that you would like to see different, any additional questions, or any questions that you would like to take off. One thing I will kind of make you aware of is that it just went to legislation, I believe it was last Wednesday. And it was an increase in the number of contact hours, that was moving from 990 at the elementary and 1,000, what is it, how many are you at the high school right now, 1,060 some?
100.
Huh?
100.
1,100?
For which?
The high school.
Contact hours.
Contact
Oh,
hours.
yeah,
1,000 what?
60.
1,060?
Yeah.
And what it would do is across the board, it would move everybody up to 1,100 and I believe 50 is what they're looking at, would be an additional, if you looked at it in a 4-day week, it would be an additional 15 days.
Right.
Or you would have to increase the number of hours that you would have with your students. So you do, right now our elementary, with the way our elementary is and the contact hours, they're still well above the 990, so it really is not gonna affect your elementary too much.
Elementary's gonna stay the same?
It would stay the same, or it would increase maybe by 2 or 3 days, because right now their contact hours is over 1,000. And so you would see maybe like an additional 40 hours to that extent, I think. And so 40 hours basically is 8
Right.
days, 5 days, yeah, 5 days at 8 hours. So additional 5 days. The high school would be the one that you would see the major, high school and the middle school would be the major, junior high would be the major, because right now you're topped out, right? You're at your 1,060.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you would see an additional probably about 190 hours or something like that. A little bit more, right?
All I remember is 15 days.
Yeah.
When we did the
15 days.
math, yeah.
So that has been proposed in legislation. Don't know where it sits right now. Was kind of tracking it, and I believe it did pass the first, and it was going to the second. Yeah, so it did pass the first, and it's moving on, but I don't know where it sits right now. As you all know or don't know, it hasn't been. We have a new Secretary of Ed. That was like 1 day in, next day out.
Literally. He
Yeah.
quit and left the same day.
Steinhaus resigned effectively on Friday, effectively immediately.
So this is Christian's third?
Fourth.
Yeah. She had one
She had
Well,
four,
an interim.
then she had an interim, and then she brought in another one.
Don from Las Cruces, that's why my.
Oh, yeah, Trujillo.
Yeah.
Hit by a car.
By car. Yeah. So this is number 4, I believe, for her. That she's had.
I know what's proposed, there was 3 different bills, but one bill had 60 hours, I believe, of enrichment for teachers to prep. That seemed to be the bill that was looking
good.
all right, so.
You know the bill numbers?
The what?
The bill numbers?
I wrote them down.
That had one. You want them?
Mr. Gannon sent us an email with all the
Yeah.
ones we're looking at.
Yeah.
There's about 8 total on the email.
I think the governor's backing the extension, I just don't know what the extension is. I just wonder if
So
they're
back to
going
the survey. So who will receive this?
Nobody.
Huh?
Nobody.
Who will?
No, who will?
Parents,
Parents?
teachers, students,
Everybody.
community.
Everybody.
It'll be open.
Everybody.
The online form's nice.
It'll be open.
Community.
I gotta, you like the background? Yeah.
Which
community
bill
members.
do you want? Mike? Which bill do
Just
you want?
which ones they're talking about.
So you got House Bill 130? You want me to forward this to you?
Yeah, just forward it to me.
So the idea is you could do it paper-based and send it home, and we were even thinking you could literally like put the QR code at basketball games they can only do the survey once, it'll register, so you can't do it multiple times. And the same, that's why we're requiring names and emails as well, so we would cross-check with paper surveys, make sure that we're only getting one vote, per stakeholder. So, that's the general idea, and again, I think our concern was the wording on the choices, is it clear, kind of what we're asking, that kind of thing. And then I know we kind of threw the middle school question in there as well, because that's kind of something on the back burner, so we thought, well, let's get that in there and get thoughts on that as well, of moving to 6th grade. And it would be, there's also that open-ended question at the end, any other concerns or thoughts, you have to leave it for suggestions or ideas people have.
So say one of these bills does pass and additional hours are required, would that be conflict with any of these options?
No.
That you just still
We would either have to make the choice to add the days at the beginning or the end if we stayed on the full 4-day week, or we would have to look at the option of maybe going.
Like where it was 20 additional days, it might be the 15.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It would just change the number of days added.
Yeah.
On a Friday.
So no, it won't affect what we send out. Will be, and if you want, we could even put
Pending
changes,
legislation.
pending legislation changes may whatever. So we can put those in. We've kind of already looked at adding in a couple of days, like even right before Thanksgiving. I know we've had that conversation. Maybe it's going that Monday, Tuesday, right before Thanksgiving. I think attendance is a big thing that we have to take a look at, like even looking at that Thursday before, because I know once vacations roll around, it's like a ghost town in this place.
even now, like I realize now that my son went up to JV, but with JV, with basketball and with skiing,
It's a lot.
they're hardly there at school.
Yeah.
I mean, he's there 1 day or 2 days a week maybe.
Yeah. So no, in other words, no, it won't affect anything that we send out. We can add that in there pending legislation, because I don't know what legislation.
And I think the idea of this survey, just to speak for the calendar committee, was just to get kind of a general sense of what's the community thinking on 4 versus 5 days. Just kind of get back, what's the vibe.
So do we need to survey anybody except for parents?
Staff and students, definitely.
Staff and students, because you're supposed to include all stakeholders. Which all stakeholders would be.
So like we give these to the pre-Kers?
We can give it to their family, but we can put it in their planners.
We can give that to their family. I don't
Like
see.
the high school
We actually
student?
talked about doing like happy faces with the littles, like we did. Like if we want to truly talk to
I
the.
don't know if you ask pre-Kers, what do you want? I mean, not regards to this.
Oh, they're gonna tell you on
Just
every day.
different things, you're gonna get all kinds of different answers, you know?
He likes his 4 days.
That's even too much for.
Well, and we can say if even with you guys, if you guys want to say we do this from 6th grade on up or 5th grade on up, then we can look at it that way. 'Cause you're right, a pre-K, when we can survey a pre-K, we can survey a.
I mean, I don't think we should, but I'm just saying, the parents should make the decision for, even when it comes to high school students, the parents should make that decision.
Well, I think that's kind of, we've encouraged their response and their, reporting to the board. So in the spirit of them, being involved, and they do have a stake in it, that was the idea.
What I think what you could do is just keep the data separated.
Yep.
Because the students.
And I can actually add a, check the box of what you are,
And then the
kind
calendar
of thing in a form.
Yeah, I think if you can add that box.
Then you can put the different weights, like, alright, the parents weigh 80% of the
Yep.
total vote.
Yep.
The students are taking 10%.
Yep.
Teachers 10.
No, we
So
can
you guys
absolutely
can
do that.
figure out how much is the weight on
That
that,
would be better.
keep the data separated,
That's no problem, we can do that.
that'd be the best.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the best. And I do, because I do know that our students have asked us, can
But I
we be
think
a part
keep
of
it
this?
at 6th grade or not. I mean,
For student input. Well, 5th and up, only because they are involved in that last question. I'm very interested what they have to say about moving. So, I have no idea what they'll say.
What?
I don't know what that 5th grade will
well, they're gonna
say.
think they wanna be
They wanna
older
be
sooner,
younger,
so they wanna
yeah.
move up, so.
Yeah,
I don't know, that 5th grade's a little.
yeah, they're a
Sure.
different crowd. We'll
they're
see.
still
We'll see
young.
what the data says.
Now that 6th grade group, no, that one would have been ready to go a long time.
Is there anything further on the calendar?
Too big for the britches.
Nothing
further we'll move on to item B, review and nominate excellence in student achievement award.
So this is an award that comes out from School Board Association. Kind of gives you the rundown. You can nominate. One was paid for by the School Board Association. Any additional is $50. This is anybody that's, you guys feel is providing that excellent service to our students. It can be, I believe it could be anybody. I don't think it has to be an employer. I believe it could be like our community type of things like that.
How many do we have?
You have a while. I just wanted to introduce it so we can start getting it.
Oh, so we're not taking nominations right now?
You can.
So last year we nominated two, right? We had
Yeah.
Mr. Dragno and
Mr. Spencer.
Mr. Warnock.
Warnock.
Mhm.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Lorraine Trujillo.
I think she died about 3 years ago.
Not that I know.
Did she?
She got a while back because she has her plaque hanging up in her
She should get it every year.
room.
Shit.
Has Ms. Pasino been nominated?
Yeah.
I think what I liked last year is we did one high school, one elementary,
Yeah.
So, I would like to see, I think, the principal nominate a couple names on each one.
Yeah,
And then
I'd be
bring it
happy
to the
to.
board.
Oh, there you go.
An open meeting?
You better nominate all of them.
Or not, if it's.
No,
too-
I can
That could be
reflect, let me
an interesting- that'd
reflect
be an
on it.
interesting-
So,
Yeah.
you know what I would, okay.
No, let me reflect.
I don't wanna put anything on the spot.
Mhm.
I think the best thing is the name of each of your staff and what they're participating in.
I
And
can
that way
do
we
that.
can see what each one is doing,
And
how
I
much
can ask
they're
Ms. Romero for
involved.
her input as well, yeah, we could do that.
That'll work.
Yeah, she and I can, we'll visit on that, I can,
And that way it's not, we're not, I don't want the teacher
no,
to
I
be
think
like.
that's
Picking one,
good.
yeah.
And I think it would be interesting, and I'll talk to Ms. Romero and Mr. Maldonado to expand it beyond teaching staff as well. I think that might be cool.
And also if they do like community stuff as well,
Mhm.
that would be nice, not just school.
Yeah,
also.
let us reflect on it. It kind of depends on who made me mad today.
And you may even do a high school, an elementary, or, junior high school and an elementary and intermediate, but you may even look at doing like a community person too, because we have some people in the community that really throw some time and effort into everything that we do, and sometimes it's nice to kind of give
March 10th.
them that recognition too.
It's dinner, okay. So for the next meeting, we can provide that.
When is this? This one's the, March 10th.
We'll talk to Ms. Romero and
Sounds good. Okay, move on to item C. Review and discuss five-year master plan.
Robert still on? Robert, can you hear us? He was.
Yeah.
Can you kind of touch on the 5-year? I know that member Lovato had kind of wanted to see the previous one and some of the major things that have been accomplished and then things that haven't been accomplished in that 5-year plan.
I haven't had time to look over what's been done, what hasn't been done. Everything's done online, so that's where if I have time, I glance at it, but running things right now on my own, I don't have much time just to look at that on its own. As well as just the 5-year plan, it's just something that needs to be done, from the state point of view. I don't know what exactly you guys need me to do on there though. I was just out there trying to find contractors that we could use to start the process.
Right, the question is, we did our own last time, I don't know if we need to be paying.
And I don't think, I've had, from what I understand, we didn't do our own because it has the name of the architect that's on there. And I talked to them, and from what I understand, they did it.
Yeah, it does on the title page. It has the name of the place where it was, because it's a good book. It's a thick book.
It's over 600 pages of what we need to do.
Well, I would imagine that they did it along the list.
They
Are they?
should do, cause it's, the way you do it is it's normally done, like there'll be a lot of interviews that will even bring in like your principals. Your facility committee would be a big part of that type of planning, and basically,
They have to talk to the community as well too.
yeah,
So,
community, so they hold like a forum where they pull in the community, they have a meeting with them. There's a lot that goes into,
You'd be able to sit on accounts payable then.
What was the question, I'm sorry?
if
I'll
it's
just have to.
Who we paid if it was that company.
who we paid to do the 5 year.
That's kind of my question I was asking is, did we hire someone and no one did?
What was
Yeah,
the
we did
quote for the new one?
They ranged from like 30-some thousand to 50-some thousand, there was like 5 of them on there. So they all ranged.
We could put 5 lift pumps for that kind of money.
Yeah, they're expensive, master plans.
Well, it's one thing to be forced to have to do it, but did we do anything with it?
Probably not.
That's
But
what I'm
even,
saying, that's-
even,
That's what I'm
even
saying,
when-
I'm with you there, cause
even
if
when-
we throw $40,000 to get a plan done,
even when we,
but we don't implement it, it's money wasted.
so this one is all completely online, but when we pulled like even cause the one from, I believe it was up until 16, so it was like 2011 to 2016. When I pulled that one, that was where I pulled a lot of like the dimensions of the buildings and things like that. There's a lot of things in there that were input even from there that had never been
Still haven't been
touched to this day. So they haven't been touched to this day, probably what they did is carry over to the next one. And so what we're gonna continue doing is dropping $50,000 or $30,000 into something that's just gonna continue, you're gonna see the basically same results over and over.
What would be the cost to just update the one we have and roll into it for the next 5 years? I mean, I'm sure there's something in there has to be done.
There's probably a few things that in there, like the roof and things like that have been, that was a big thing, cause roofing is huge on those things, like asking when, and I know we just did some of the work like on the roofs where we had them, covered and filled and those type of things, which that was fell into the like preventative maintenance and things like that. So that portion and stuff like that has been done.
our last 5 year plan hasn't even really covered any type of maintenance or preventive maintenance in the past because it's never been put in. The most of the 5 year plan usually covers more of like what type of stuff we have incoming financially and where we're looking to go in the future of what the school's looking like. It doesn't, we really don't even have that much inside of that 5 year plan maintenance wise though.
I think it's kind of hard for us to comprehend it without ever
It was
really
GS
seeing it, you know?
architecture.
So there it is.
2016.
Might be a work session, you know,
That's right.
And
To see it
so
online.
he could only go
to
on
see
that
what we're
record.
Yeah.
trying to accomplish.
He started in 18, so he has nothing back before
So
2018.
that's,
So he doesn't know who they paid, I mean, he doesn't know the amount, but it's GS architecture.
For the 2 years ago, 2 times ago.
Who was the superintendent there?
That's actually online
it
as a
should
PDF.
say.
That one, I can send you that.
I don't know if that was my 3rd or.
And Mr. Maldonado, that one's actually online as a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's the most recent?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
that's the one that's,
That one,
we're
yeah.
finalizing now
That's-
to.
So you could see it online.
Superintendent was Valerie Tree. And your board was Jose, Joel, Rosalind, Daryl, and Bernie Clark.
I think we just went down to 5.
Mhm.
So it was. So if you look at the breakup of this, of the 5 year, you have like your master plan, your goals, your process, your programs. So it actually touches on a lot, cause it even like talks about like your growth, like what you expect to grow, or if you expect to decline in enrollment. And the purpose of that is so that if you're looking at funding, because if you're coming in 1 year and your budget, you're expecting a budget this, but then you started seeing a decrease of 10 kids a year, your budget's not gonna be as high, so now you gotta start budgeting in what you're gonna do over the next 5 years. So there's more than just maintenance that goes into this plan.
So
just for discussion, so we can, I mean, when we go to, item suggested, we can figure out what we wanna do. Moving forward with this.
Maybe a work study or something.
I think it includes your principal, superintendent, and maintenance. I think it's gonna be,
Probably
what do the four of you all recommend?
It's more of a one-day discussion.
Yeah, cause you also have community participants, then you have your PSFA rep. So even working with PSFA, and this is kind of where this all came to light, was because we brought out PSFA to do the initial part, and PSFA said, well, your plan is about to expire, so let's get moving on this plan, and that's where we applied for an additional, well, it was like a small grant, right, or funding, it was like $2,700, is that correct, Robert?
Yeah, it's what they do on their, well, we only get our 4% off of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of the 4%. So we got 2,000 out of it, out of the 40,000 that they allow.
And that falls
And that was,
because,
that's what you guys had signed off on receiving.
and that falls because we're a 96-4 district.
Okay, with you, Cheryl. You want to?
Anything further on the 5-year master plan? Nothing further, we'll go on to,
Before that, I just want to say, I'd like to recommend that we table it and have a full discussion, and probably talk to a couple of these companies to see what the money's gonna cover. I think it'd be good for all of us to hear from,
So do you want,
maybe pick 2 of them.
you want them, cause some of them provided a pretty good scope of, in their.
Yeah, but we can have those copies, but I think it'd be good to speak with them and ask questions of what it entails, and just things like that. I think it'd be good, so I'd like to make a motion to table it and put it on a meeting where we have a full discussion with these companies.
When we're looking at it, do you want any type of requirements? Like I said, it ranged from like 53,000 to 30-some. Do we? I know the cheaper is not always the better. Do you want to just
For
kind of
action,
put the
no.
scope?
yeah,
What's that?
just discussion.
There's no actions, but you could do that for items.
Yeah, but I can make motions, what we wanna do as a board on, for
We can get
the
a
group.
directive, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Since more of a director, I'm not making that motion to approve anything, since just to, have this type of discussion on another meeting.
We have motion for
Continuation with discussion and, with contractors, possible contractors.
Second. Member Lovato,
Yes.
President Ryan,
yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes, and Member Cisneros.
Yes.
All right, move on to the unfinished business. Item A, discuss and approve, disapprove revision second reading policy J-4450, JJIE drug use in school activities, athletic extracurricular programs, drug and alcohol testing.
Sorry.
You want a color copy?
Just see the strike-throughs and the
The
changes.
straight throughs and the changes.
Yeah, that probably be easy.
It's coming.
Forget about my color.
So right now, the change was put to 50%.
It was put to 50%. Now, one thing that I do wanna address is that with the 25% that we did came up to 12 students last time. Our total cost between tests, field cost, lab cost, came out to a total of $735.20. And that was
Per time?
per time. And that was at the 12 students that were tested, so you're gonna increase that if you did go 50%, so that's something to kind of keep into.
What's our test and lab prices versus the field
Our
prices?
test and lab, our rapids are $40, their fill, depends, it came out to $43.20, That's probably about right,
The what?
their fuel.
Yeah, I'm
The-
not worried
the
about the
test-
fuel, I'm more,
Oh, the
so
test.
4320, so everything else is towards labs?
Yeah, so $40 a test is what it is. Came out to a total of $480, and then the labs is an additional $40. So a test that has to be sent to the lab goes to $80.
So that would be up to about, we're looking about 1100 for about 50% of the students, because the fuel price ain't gonna change. So you're looking at a $3-4 increase, go to 50%.
Yeah, because right now we're at 25%, so you're gonna see it almost double itself, just because if you're 25 up to 50, it'll go to about, yeah, you'd see it about 11, I would say about $1,300.
Is that paid out of athletics?
No, it's not at this point.
Where did it get paid for?
General, yeah. So you're doing this 3 times a year, so if you're looking at about $1,300, it'd be 1,300 times 3 is what you'd be looking at. You do it in the fall, winter, and spring.
$3,900?
Huh?
3,900?
About $4,000.
What they made in the cheer competition.
Hey, what?
Cheer paid for it.
Yeah. Sure, okay.
I think we should have just leave it at the 25%, the way it is. With as many student athletes that we have that are in dual sports, it already brings it to that 50% level for most of them. I don't see.
Yeah, you got a lot of dual sport athletes.
Well, if you put extracurricular in there, it's everybody.
Well, I would say get rid of the extracurricular altogether. This drug policy, testing policy was specific towards athletics. I don't see a reason enough to me, it's blanket testing the entire school population, which we know we can't do anyway. If we open it up to the extracurricular activities, it just opens that door to say, okay, now we made a policy that lets us blanket test the entire. I think looking forward at a legal precedent, I don't think that's a wise choice. This particular policy that we had in place was already in place, so we just enforced it. The students, athletes, parents, coaches, just like other districts around the state, sign these contracts before they enter the sport. It's not a surprise. They know ahead of time, hey, this is a possibility. So the intent is to keep this illegal substances from being consumed by our athletes or our students, right? So I don't agree with the extracurricular programs. I think what we saw in the enforcement aspect of it was, yeah, we needed to make some changes. I think that maybe giving a student the chance to stay participating if they enroll in a treatment program of some sort.
For self-disclosure.
For exactly that, not if you get caught, but if you self-disclose,
And that's,
there's an avenue, because I don't wanna lose, I don't want people to just give up and say, well, all I really had to look forward to was sports, I made a mistake. You know, we have to also take into account that, they're not adults either. And we're looking at through adult eyes, trying to fix a juvenile problem, which I think that has to have some consideration. So I'd hate for them to make a mistake, get caught up, and then they say, well, just give up and say, well, all I really came to school for was to play sports, and now I can't even do that, so now I'm gonna drop out, or just give up all entirely into a worse path. So if we have the avenue where they, self-disclose treatment, assessment and treatment, I think it should probably be up to maybe the parents, the coach, and the team to say, hey, we want you to come practice with us, or at least stay on the court, or whatever field that they're playing in, maybe.
I believe right now the policy says self-disclosure is 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
3 weeks out.
You know, I think even first violation, I mean, if I was the coach, you know, the kid messed up the first time, but I would expect them and want them to keep working at what they're doing. I'd say you should require them to stick with the sport and stay there with the team and practice. That way, you know, your next test is coming. So not only do you have to still do all the hard work, keep your grades up, keep your practices in, but now you added yourself extra work. You have to do all this stuff. I mean, that's first violation. Second violation happens, I think they made their choice. But I think if they're not going to practice every day, we're kind of doing exactly the opposite of what we expect from them, because now they have free time to do what? And they know that they have from now until track, or until whenever, until they really have to work at it. I wouldn't want them to stop working at it. I think their workload kind of would be expected to increase if they wanted to stick with not just that sport, but sports from there on out. I think taking them away from the court or the track or wherever they're at is a mistake. I mean, this does a really good thing for our athletes, and yeah, we have to hold them to a higher standard, but it does nothing for the rest of the student population. I mean, all we can do is have an example. You know, the athletes have to help us, you know, show the kids what's expected out of all of them, not just the
Well,
athletes.
I honestly believe that if we just left this to sports, and athletics alone is what the intent and purpose of the original policy is, we offer the rest of the school bringing in these programs, so that we're not just saying, hey, it's only our student athletes. We're offering coping mechanisms. We're offering counseling of some sort or the other to anybody who comes forward and says, hey, you know what, my grades are suffering. I have an issue that I'm struggling with. How can you help me deal with it? If we put these classes out there to educate them that, hey, there's alternatives to cope with stress, to be coping with family issues that they may be seeing at home, and it's manifesting in school. That's stuff that all of us should be looking out for, even the staff and counselors, for that matter. That's what our job is, to catch them before they fall into a worse position. So I agree with you. This policy does nothing for the entire student body. It's addressed specific for its athletics. But having this come about, brought out about these other entities that we can entertain to try and educate the high schoolers about, you know, how to cope with these type of things, and healthier alternatives to going to turn to drugs or alcohol, I guess in a sense.
Well, you gotta take into account too, about 70% of our students participate
It's 80%, yeah.
yeah, in athletics, so, you know, so it's hitting a big population still. And I think that you know, whatever number you keep it, but I do see that it's still gonna affect, and if you focus strictly on athletics, and that, you know, that's fine on that end too. We focus it because majority of these kids that you see that are in student council and in mariachi and in honor society and ski club, they're still your same athletes. They're gonna be involved, so their chance of in that pool is still gonna be just as large as any other, because now they're gonna be pulled from every direction. So you know, if you went straight athletics, you're fine, because you're still gonna see the same number of kiddos. You're not gonna lose the kiddos. You know, with that said, like I've said, we don't have this issue where it's a tremendous amount. We're gonna lose every kid on that team, and we're gonna lose every player. out of a team of about 10, we may lose one out of that 10 players. You know, and so it's not like this is just a major issue, and you know, I think the part of looking at like where Member Lovato looks at with the 50% is we do get some of the time where you have kids that feel like, well, this is my second time being tested. Yes, I'm a multi-sport athlete, so I feel like at a point, you know, because I'm a multi-sport athlete, I fall into that pool 2 or 3 times, and where you have 50%, then it now opens it up to a bigger range of the kids being pulled into that pool. You know, I know that even speaking with Miss McDonald, a lot of the athletes have actually asked for it to be 100%. They said, you know what, what's good for one of us should be good for all of us, and they feel that we should all go through this system. Not saying change it to 100%. It's just, you know, I'm just kind of throwing out the discussions with the students and what their kind of thought is, you know, I think that these kids aren't afraid to face this, knowing that there's a way, and if we can provide some supports, if it is. I agree with Member Cisneros. I do feel that maybe our first violation needs to look a little different, and it does need to, you know, allow them to continue participating on a suspended, maybe they practice, but it's kind of like they're ineligible. They practice, but they don't play until we do, because you're right. Some of our kids, once they're gone, they're gone. And then they tell me, I'm not doing anything anymore. I'm done with the sports for this year. You know, and maybe that we do need to look at it that way. I know that we kind of came at it pretty hard, you know, in our initial, and it did hit pretty hard. And, you know, and like I said, out of the 20 some kids that we tested, we, you know, saw a couple of positives. It's not, you know, it's not like 50% of those or 90% of those students came back positive. Yes, we did have a couple. And I think that's why now it's been brought back to you guys to kind of weed out some of these things that need to be weeded out, and be able to make what we feel is in the best interest for both the board, but also for our students that are the ones that are going, because most of our students are fine. You know, I recall one, and you know, straight out says, I gotta go. He's on the phone. He's, I gotta go. I guess I gotta go pee in a cup. You know, it was no big deal to him. And he's like, you know, he says, I'm not nervous. He says, what do I have to be nervous about? You know, he says, I want to play ball. I want to be out there on the court. You know, this isn't something I want to do. So I think then it's finding, like Member Cisneros says, where we find those kids and we can provide them some support and find them some help, and, you know, not completely yank the sport away from them and say, well, you're positive, so you're done. You know, and I think that.
It used to be a halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to have a chance to come back out and do better the second half.
And I think the other part of that too is we have a pool of kids who are, the way it's written now, unwilling to seek help and unwilling to go out for sports. Do you know what I mean? And so I want to, like, that's what engages you in the school community is our activities and our sports, and that's the kids I need to have engaged.
Well, this policy did exactly what we envisioned.
Yeah.
It did.
It brought awareness, it brought attention,
It did.
and I think we can tweak it
Yep.
where it fits. Maybe 100% we all agreed that was maybe too much.
Right.
50% might still be a little bit. You like 25? I'm stuck at about 33%, and I like seeing if the school's paying for that program, junior high and high school sports. I think they all have to go through the same type of rigorous type things. That way, they already know by the time they get to varsity that it's already just something natural. I mean, we're starting them young.
Well, and you see it with the grades, and it's really encouraging because we have, we have the exact same thing in place for grades. And so I think what we see is, and it's really funny with snow sports, because it's a weekly grade. And you see kids, and to take skiing as an example, they're required at the junior high and high school to show us their grades on their phone, if they have one, or on their Chromebook. So they are responsible to log into their Power School and demonstrate that they have passing grades. And it's like you see these little 13 and 14-year-olds getting this aha moment of, oh, this matters. You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome. And I think and they're little pros. Like, they get on the bus and they're showing their grades. Like, they know that that's their ticket on.
Skiing with the Chromebook.
Yeah.
They all have a phone when they go skiing, because nobody's letting them out there without a phone.
It has been, and I think that you're exactly right. This policy did do exactly what it needed to do. It brought the awareness, but I think now we need to look at how to fine tune it. And we still may not fine tune it. We may have to bring this back, you know, in 6 months, once our next go round of test comes in. You know, or, you know, even as time goes, but I think that once we get this kind of set the way we like it and the numbers that we like and the you know, whatever it may be, we always have to keep, and I think that it's done what it needs to do for right now. I know, you know, I've had more calls on this and even from parents, and it's like, you know, I would like to see them here, you know, sitting here kind of listening to this discussion. But at the same time, I think that it's given us that awareness of our kids are worried about this. But, you know, again, I agree with on Miss McDonald's end. What I don't want to see is kids just stop coming out for sports because they're afraid to disclose. Because the way the policy is right now, disclosure means you're done for the year.
Mhm.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're done. And so I think, you know, I think we need to kind of understand, and you know, I want them to feel comfortable coming to Miss McDonald or to Mr. Salazar or to
Coach.
even a teacher.
Mhm.
You know, even a teacher saying, you know, I'm really struggling, I need help with this or that, and I think that, you know, with policies like this, it kind of gives us that ability of, you know, helping the students instead of just kind of, because right now the way it looks is basically you got caught, you're finished, you're done. You know, it's kind of, we threw it out. Your sport's done. You know, you're done with this year. Maybe next year you'll be better. But with the support end is just not really falling into where it needs to fall into. And I think that, you know, that's, you know, like I said, this has been numerous research looking at programs of what can we do for these kids. You know, there's not a whole heck of a lot in Taos County to give these kids, but what can we bring in? Can we bring something in? And I think that that's been, you know, even eye opening for me. You know, I'm sitting there watching a course on what THC does to the body, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, seriously? Like, this is, you know, and it's a big eye opener. You know, it's a big eye opener for everybody, and I think that that's kind of where the way we need to move.
Well, I agree with you. I think having a weed shop on every corner that we look at, if you're just driving through Taos anymore.
They deliver.
They deliver it, and,
Yeah.
you know, the state making it legal, it's still illegal for kids, for minors.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. However, we'll see how this boom of economic security comes, but there has to be legislation to say we need to provide education also.
Mhm.
And it's not up to the school district to take out of our funding that we barely have. We're willing to do that, to go to that extent for our kids, but I think at the state level, when it comes to this, they need to step up big time, because we're a small school district, there's bigger school districts out there, and I can guarantee you, they're all kind of facing these same questions. We took a stand, this policy had been in place, never enforced. We did the enforcement part of it, and now, the good thing about policy is it's a,
Ever-changing.
it's a changing document, you can revisit it, fix it, and like you say, we may have to visit it again. But we have a coach right here, if you wanna say something about it, you saw firsthand what the policy did to the student athletes. I mean, what's your suggestions?
Me, I think it'd be good maybe if we all got like a committee together, and we got some board members, some students, some athletes, maybe some parents. We all sit down, and I think if we all talk, I think we could probably hash out majority of the problems that we do have with the policy. I think that would be the easiest, fastest way to get this policy changed and get it kind of more into place, more and more friendly to both the athletes and for the school as well. I think that would help us get to where we need to get to a lot sooner than that. Maybe call a formal meeting or call some sort of meeting, and I could get with some athletes and get with some parents, and maybe we could schedule something like that and get something in place to kind of get this ball rolling a little faster.
Collaboration for sure.
Yeah, and I think that'd be good. I think the only thing is that I would say is that these agendas are posted and these conversations are on these, and the participation doesn't happen, and I think that that's kind of where we have to just kind of make those decisions, and, you know, and we move forward with them.
And the right thing about policies, I mean, we can approve with the changes that make sense to us now.
Yeah.
If additionals come up,
Yeah,
We can
I like
set
the
something up,
committee
have the
idea.
conversation, because the other thing is, if we don't do something tonight with any changes, then it'll stay
It stays the way it is.
as it is.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to make a motion to do some change, but I wanna hear it.
Yeah.
And I like the committee idea, cause I think, well, you see how long it takes, you got the 2 readings, 2 postings, all that. This gives us time, maybe by the time that tracking that's gonna start already.
Yeah.
So I think if we can clean it all up and have a draft ready for, say, this summer,
Yeah.
that way hitting
For fall.
the fall sports, it'd be perfect. But I think we need to do some minor tweaks that allows the principals to do their job and get a little more involved. I like to do that, so with that, if anyone else has anything else to say.
President Rao, I just wanna make a comment on it. And, you know, because I do work with the board, I work with Mr. Mundo now, you know, seeing this policy and how it affected our kids, I mean, I don't have kids in the school anymore, but I do have my grandkids. And you have that conversation with them, and again, they're like, oh, no problem. And, you know, I've had the conversation with Mr. Mundo now about honor society, student council, the competition, things like that. I think that what Mr. Grego had to say with involving our parents, our students, I mean, I've had calls almost every day. I'm not finding that policy the first reading, you know, they don't understand that until that policy is approved, I can't submit that to you publicly because it's not approved by the board. But I think if you empower some of our students, that they can come back and say, I was part of that. And so if they test positive or negative, or whatever it may be, they can say, well, I was part of that and I made the choice to mess up. But I really do feel that they should have a first violation. That's just my thoughts. I've worked with kids in Colorado when I worked for the mentoring program that dealt with kids that were high risk. And we gave them the opportunity to be able to clean up. And it was, by that time, it was between the parent and the child or the student to make those corrections on themselves. And then the second violation, if they didn't do it, then it could be thrown back at them and not say, well, the school didn't help me, but if we all work in collaboration with the parents, I think we could be successful.
And I see that with the athletes, how they respect Coach Grego, like they'll talk to him and let him know. But it'd be nice to put a committee together that I think you can manage. If you want a board member on there, or you just don't think you need us on there, that's your call. I think you know them better than what we do. We know our kids, and that's about it. But you know.
I think it'd be a little more in-depth gauge
Yeah, they're not
if
gonna open up.
you did it because we have posted our agendas and this topic was coming up with our first reading. Open for discussion. This is probably what the 4th, at least board meeting, if not more than that. And the only time we drew anybody to even speak to us was when we implemented it and the first time somebody actually got suspended, then they had a big issue with it. So we're not getting the public participation like we would like to see, because we can only do our part and put it out there. This is what's on the agenda, it's posted ahead of time. If the public doesn't come and sit in here and tell us, you know, issues or anything else, committee might be a better way. And I get it, people work and, you know, they have other obligations when they get home. I mean, there's people that feed cows, there's people that have their kids in picking them up at practice and they can't just make our meetings all the time. But I'd be willing to entertain something that you brought.
I think with that too, they're gonna be more open to you guys than one of us would be sitting there, because they're not, maybe it just won't be as open, right? So you might be able to get more information from them as to what they want to see in this. But I think, Jose's right that we need to at least present them with the draft and then we can make changes. But I really do think that they'll be more open to you guys and maybe some parents and their peers, obviously, to really get a good policy. And I agree with you. I have some stuff I think we should change too for this.
Okay, well, let's
Presidents? Ready?
let's hear what changes you might, and then, because we may have to add yours. What do you got, Mike?
So, do you guys wanna take out extracurricular? And we'll strike extracurricular
So
out.
straight there completely?
Yep.
All the way across the board?
All the way across. And then question, when we have grades 6 to 12, is this only if they are like JV varsity level, correct? Like,
No, junior high, junior high and high school.
like our junior high
Sports. Any,
teams?
I'm saying any school, any sport that is paid for by the school.
Okay, gotcha.
So we have another policy, and that policy reads that anything that is sport-wise is considered that has any type of competition or championship type of thing, which we play an NRG tournament, we do NRG track meet, even for the little kids and volleyball plays, so yeah, it would affect junior high all the way up.
And then I like the 33%.
33%?
Yeah. And then on where it says students who leave school in order to avoid testing will forfeit the remainder of their sports season, I think I would also like to see in there if we can add refusal to submit a test if they just don't want to do it. I think that should constitute the same thing, right?
That's in it later, I believe.
It's in it later, yeah.
It says a refusal, later in the policy, it says refusal is treated as a first
As a
offense.
first offense.
Yeah.
So either take that out then, that way it's just once in there. It
Where's
should be
the second one
repetitive then.
Later,
Tell me
it's,
the bullet.
So where the 50% is, on that page, I think it's page 3,
It's the
and then the very bottom.
Oh, I see.
A refusal to submit a random.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
if
very
it's
last one.
somewhere in there, then you can just take that out.
Is it, do you remember?
So I think with that one, you have to add for them leaving.
Yeah.
yeah,
So on the
You
next
can make them
page,
the same.
yeah, just make it
yeah,
the
Within
same.
the
just
same bullet.
combine it, okay.
Just refusal of testing and then leaving,
Leaving
avoiding
is
testing.
considered.
Okay, so that
Consider
student who leaves school to avoid testing, just make that one bullet?
Yeah,
And they refuse or they avoid it, then
yeah,
that's considered. And then on first violation, like the members were saying, the student will be suspended from completing in athletic contests for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever verbiage we want in there.
For which one?
First violation, second bullet.
Can we look at with the same, if they self-disclose, following the same policy there with the self-disclosure? Because the self-disclosure is the student who voluntarily divulged will be offered assistance. Okay, watch. Throughout the year, there will be random testing.
I think you
The
could say
student will be required to
self-disclose
follow
or first
bullets 1 through
violation.
4. A student will be on a 2-week non-participation in their athletic
Have them be the
activity.
same,
So can we just kind of keep that?
As long as those levels drop within the 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
right,
Yeah, totally fine, just put 2 weeks.
So,
in there.
so if I put first violation, just put C,
Voluntary
Vol-
disclosure.
But I think they should be required to still participate.
So they
except
are.
for the contests.
so I think it says that, watch it, so the student will be on a 2-week non-participation, there, upon completion of 2 weeks, student will be allowed to participate in their sport. Under the following circumstances, the student must test, maybe it's not in there, so yeah.
so
we
they
could put that.
continue with practice, but
Yeah,
not
continue to
contest.
practice.
No competition.
Okay, they can't compete. It's just like the grades, right?
Mhm.
Same type of.
And
Well,
then-
grades is longer, grades is 9 weeks. You're out for a quarter.
So right now this is just 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying
We
you
wanna
get a bad grade.
It's worse than
It's
getting a
worse.
It's
positive
worse than
test.
getting
I would kind of put that out there.
Do you wanna push farther? Go 9 weeks,
Absolutely.
Or do you wanna,
but you may see the end of the season.
either that or give them in the academic policy, give them a chance to make the grade up sooner than
You
that.
can.
You can't.
That's a state.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
Which you can, because our policy is stricter than the state policy.
You're darn right it is.
So
So
our
we-
policy is based on a quarter, whereas the state policy is based on a semester.
And I think we even got lenient on that.
You think so?
It used to be stricter.
It was
So we have a
4.5.
stricter policy than that.
It was at the
So
4.5.
that's a whole different,
You're not voting.
yeah.
So but it doesn't match, is kind of the point. So our current athletic policy is you gain and lose eligibility at the 9 weeks. So
I think instead of 2, maybe make it 4.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
for-
we
4
can
weeks?
also, well, that could be really short. I say you could say next grading period, but that doesn't work, cause if it's a week before.
But if you did that, then you're gonna lose a kid still, they're
Mhm.
still gonna just, because you're gonna go through,
Mhm.
you're gonna go through probably
Yeah.
a season.
Four.
Well,
Cause you're gonna see like a season, in a grading period, you're gonna see,
So how long does it take on these tests to see a real
within
decline?
2 weeks, you should see it
A drop
decline.
in the nanogram.
So
it's about
like,
3 weeks.
so like, say we had a kid that tested, and say their results came back at 98 nanograms per milliliter. By 2 weeks, that 98 should be down to about between 70 and 60 nanograms. It could even, depending on, there's a lot of factors, metabolism, their the way they work out, you know, those type of things are gonna play in a factor. You could technically see a kid that had a 98 nanogram drop completely off of the scale, which it only picks up anything of 50 or higher.
THC 101
Yeah.
class.
Yeah,
Right.
we've been learning a lot.
So 3 weeks, I
That's
think.
Well, I would say,
Wow.
I will say a lot of the policies we looked at for self-disclosure was 21 days, 3 weeks. Out of the, yeah.
I'd go 3 then.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks?
2 is short, let's do 3.
Well, the grades have to be stricter, I would say, even just for the fact that
We're
we're here to educate and this is a bonus, so if you don't get the grades, you don't pay anyway, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter.
So, Mr. Cordova, do you wanna see 3 weeks even with the self-disclosure?
Yeah. Keep them bearing each other at least.
Do they test after the 3 weeks, or do they test on a
So that's
weekly
what I was
basis?
gonna put here, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe 6th bullet. Yeah, the 6th, first violation. So obviously after completion of the suspension, the student must complete, it said random test, it's not gonna be random, it's gonna be, they have to test for it after the 3 weeks.
Yep.
Mandatory test.
Mandatory drug screening test or something. And then, obviously, the students will be reinstated as eligible for participation for the remainder of the season, as long as the random test does not come back positive.
As long as the mandatory test.
Yeah, does not come back positive.
Well, I'm sure it's a decline.
Well, it may be positive.
Okay,
Or a
shows
decline.
A
Yeah.
decline, but I would set a limit, cause that's where when I talked, I told her is 15 a safe number, instead of 15 would absolutely be a safe number, because a 15 nanograms would mean that they are on a decline.
Let's do 50.
So you would need, what, a 50% decline?
Minimum.
Because you gotta get down to
15%.
50.
Minimum.
If you tested a 90, you get cut that in half,
Yeah,
50%
so-
decline.
So a 50%.
You're gonna see a
We can go a number, or we can go 50%.
Like a minimum of a 15 nanogram decline.
The only reason I say that's because we also, there's tests that are a lot higher than 98 that are like 1500. So 1500,
1500?
yes.
Mhm.
That's
So,
a everyday.
yes.
That would be maybe every
Yeah.
user.
So I
This
think,
is like,
Can we leave it up
hey,
to,
I messed up.
THC 101.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's.
it's an everyday usage,
so who,
a couple of times a day.
can we leave that decline number, like if we're gonna do case by case, I mean, cause then I know other substances are probably different, right? Every, we're stuck on the PhD.
Yeah. Cocaine, get out of your body like in 24 hours.
So can we leave that to,
Depending on what.
who's reading that decline?
I wonder if we could put something based on recommendation by whatever
Testing
leads this
service.
testing
Oh, yeah.
facility.
I don't know if they'll give us, because I know I had a hard time getting that out of them too, because when I asked number-wise, she
Well,
wouldn't
it's gotta be
really.
a medical doctor that reads this,
It's a medical officer, yeah.
yeah, who does it, so.
So
I like the
But
percentage.
it could vary though,
I like the
because,
percentage too.
like you say,
Percentage is better. Cause it shows that they're trying, right? Cause, again, you get a high thing, if they drop 50%, that's, they're trying.
They're trying hard.
So they wanna go 50%?
Yeah.
So I'll take out that 15 nanograms and go 15.
50% of it, original.
Original.
If you're saying,
And that's all I had. You guys have-
I didn't see, well, I guess it would, you know.
But I guess that is a good question, okay? So let's take this kid, a kiddo that maybe came in at 1500, which we know is an everyday user at, could be multiple times a day. So this kid at 1500, even if you cut 1500 in half, is still gonna be you know,
750.
750,
So now he's only
which
smoking
means
one
that
cigarette a day.
that kid could still be using but cutting it down. You might have a kid like that that may never drop below the 50 for
I
several
mean, let's
months.
face it, guys, we're not here to completely stop it. There's gonna be some nicks and crannies and crooks where they're gonna get through.
It is a pretty good
We can
starting
only do
point.
the best thing we
I
can
think
do for this policy, right? We can't control what they're doing.
Man, if we got an athlete that's doing 1,500, now you're pretty good.
Yeah, because I could imagine even on site sometimes, probably.
I don't think
I
it
got
that
laughing.
serious.
I don't like the laugh.
I don't
No,
like that.
I'm just saying it was pretty stunning to see the numbers.
The numbers were stunning. I hadn't seen, like, I thought it was a miss
So,
count.
but you're talking 4 out of 70 people, right? Is that what we said, about 70%
For what?
of students that are in
Yeah.
athletics?
We have about 70.
Actually,
It's a little
70,
higher.
it's like,
It's closer to 80. It's probably about 77, 78% of our students are in athletics or participate in one sport at least. This year, we even saw students that had never participated in athletics that started participating in athletics. So
So we're saying, but I
It's
mean,
a
I'm
small
just trying to say,
percentage.
to put it into context, what we're talking about here, the actual percentage of our student body or
It's
student athletes that got caught
it's low.
is,
Yes.
is.
It's minimal.
Yeah, minimal.
Yeah,
compared
it's
to-
it's
So I think something like that, like you say they're going from 1,500 to 750, we can put in there that we have the right to test them again on a weekly basis to show that it is decreasing.
Yeah,
Until you reach zero.
you won't reach a zero.
We should.
Well,
No.
under 50.
well, not in
Of-
the term
of
of the
50,
sport.
Not in the term of any of that. So
Of
you'll
the-
never
yeah.
reach, because that's even one of, back to THC 101 is you'll never be at a 0-0. You always have, that's how they know when somebody actually flushes their system, because that's when you come in at a 0. We all have a small percentage.
So then what I would do is I would establish a level.
Wait a minute,
If
that
you're
was
at
small
this
percentage
level,
of what?
Of
Then-
the way they pick it up.
I would establish a level to where if you test this amount, then you automatically fall into that category to 50, and then you get the continuation of drug testing. But we have to put a limit right on it, I would say.
I would say.
So, when they sign their contract for the sport,
Mhm.
does it address some of this stuff here?
They signed this
They signed
exact
this policy.
document separately even than the athletic packet.
So in the athletic packet though, does it have any of this? in
The
it?
whole, this exact
But just
policy,
this though, but
Yes.
outside of the policy, does it?
yes,
Yes.
Can we have something where we can refer to the athletic packet where you can change? I mean, if you're gonna do your research with whatever levels or whatever, cause, I mean, what do you do in the event where it doesn't go down on somebody like that, but, you know, maybe they're telling the truth, but I mean, I don't know how it works. You know what I mean, so for the minimal user, whatever, maybe he goes boom, but somebody else, and depending on what the sport is, and the metabolism or however that works, I mean, what if they're trying hard?
there
but
is
they're
a
still-
function for an appeal. So in any of this, in the policy, there's a function for an appeal, so I could see a situation where if it's a kid with a very specific situation who, if they could document seeking treatment and support, if they can document, you know what I mean, their coach is verifying they're coming sober, they've never been impaired, I could see where we could take that into account with an appeal. I mean, that would be my thought.
Okay.
So we do have an appeal process in the policy. If they say, you know what, I have been working my butt off at being clean, here's my documentation for that, you know, we could definitely take that into consideration.
Okay.
That's just my thought. Because we have used that appeal process once this year, so.
So, I think where we did that change to add to that is, we talked about, after 3 weeks they have to get tested.
Mm-hmm.
If I would put in there in the last part, if levels were so high, additional tests may be required
Yeah.
to prove,
To document.
and that should cover your.
You're looking for a reasonable decline.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you gotta start somewhere.
And then, like I said, then we can tweak it even more, but
That's where.
that one at least it covers you having to get that test at 3 weeks, and then test at 5 weeks or 4 weeks. That's gonna be basically a disclosure of what you know.
I think that specifically putting the word reasonable in there.
Which word?
Reasonable decline. Because everybody's different, like you say, it's not a one size fits all type of
Yeah,
deal.
it's not, every kid is gonna come in at a 90, is gonna drop all the way down to a 40 within, you may
And
have
at the
one
end of the
that
day,
can.
this is just a safety net to try to catch and help these individuals with
So,
whatever.
so ultimately, like, even I know the discussion that I had, like, with White Sands was even a student like that came in at a 1500, within 3 months, it should be below the 50. Because you would see the decrease, the way it needs to decrease. And like a student that came in at like a 90, within a month should be decreased. Now like she said, that doesn't always mean that it's gonna be, that 90 may go down to a 60. And then that 60 then, the next time should, if you did it 2 or 3 weeks later, should be below the 50. So we're gonna be able to tell if there's a reasonable, like President Rios says, a reasonable decrease in these kids. You know, if you have a kid that's 98 and then the next time's a 96, that's not a reasonable decrease. That still means that we're still kind of doing what we're.
The other thing, can we add in here the start dates for the season? That way everybody knows, like, hey, this season starts here, this is what, you know what I mean, just so it's clarified.
Gonna change.
Could change.
It changes every year.
Yeah.
So if you just put your fall, winter, spring, it covers your sport season.
Yeah, because it.
I was just thinking, because that cheer thing that we dealt with, like, before I was on the board.
I don't even know what the cheer is.
Because that's November, right?
November
Practice
1st
all-
is
Yeah.
normally.
The actual season's November 1.
Is it a winter sport?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, because
Since
that's why
fall into
it
winter.
Or just put what
states the
sports
same
fall
like
under
as
what.
basketball.
We could put that. We
Yeah.
can put the sports that
Put it
fall
Fall under the season.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the way I understand it now, if they get caught, right, we get a presumptive positive, that test still has to go to the lab to be verified, correct? With the presumptive positive, that they can't do nothing till we get that test back. We can't offer services.
With the policy states.
The way the policy is at this point, right?
The current policy, that's true. Although, no.
What?
No, I'm sorry, that's not true.
No,
We did allow them to participate in practice till we confirmed.
Until we received.
Yeah,
Till we received, okay.
We just added in here though.
yeah,
Now with the change.
Yeah, and
Was,
so,
yeah, because that kind of caught, because like the lab, because they were tested on the 20th, we didn't get anything back. It took till after the new year to get something back. So
for the confirmation.
yeah, basically had like 2 weeks of
Up in the air kind of type
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah,
and I think it's always better if it is positive, right? Just like the COVID test, you're better off getting the PCR from the hospital or wherever.
Yeah.
So I think it's better off being read by the lab to confirm it's a positive than this poor kid may not, it was a false
well,
positive.
you
but
may
is
have false
there
positive,
any,
but
I'm just saying, okay, we get a presumptive positive, then the kid says, you know what, I wanna get in front of this. What is the school offering for me to do? Or we gotta wait till the positive test comes back. Then we
Oh,
can.
no, we can offer
But they
it.
ask for it.
Yeah,
yeah, we can get in front of it right away.
What's the
because that's not
timeframe?
what Juan said in the last time, and we said, we can't provide anything to them until we get the positive back.
We've never had any of them ask us at that point, because it kind of goes into a denial type of thing.
We had the other situation.
White Sands was real good about, like, when they did have the positive, they pulled them in. They did explain to them that their test did come back positive, that it would be sent over to the lab. And, you know, no other questions, because they have their medical officer that reaches out to the parent or to the student or whoever. And so we, at that point, like, never have had anybody say, hey, they don't tell us, they go tell everybody else that I tested positive. And so that's where you get craziness, and you get, you know, letters that get written to places and things like that really we don't see.
So what's the ETA on if you have to send them to the lab?
It should only be about It should be about, yeah, about 72 hours.
Should be 3 days.
Yeah.
Per
That
the
was
contract.
holiday
Yeah.
rates, which
But
Yeah.
the holiday,
Yeah.
the holiday threw us off because it got sent out on, so she tested on the 20th, it got sent out on the 21st. Then you had the weekend that rolled around because it was, you had, and then you had Christmas,
New Year's.
Christmas, that, and then you had New Year's, and so we didn't get back, but like, till almost, I think it was like January 3rd or something like that, that we finally got everything back.
So then, on this then, for the first offense, do you wanna put mandatory training if we were to get that like online prevention and intervention? They
Mandatory
have to
class.
do that, yeah, mandatory
Mandatory,
class,
I agree.
cause that's helping them, right? So we gotta push them through that class,
Yep.
to show completion.
So on the first,
I would suggest on self-disclosure as well.
Yep.
The first self-disclosure, and even on the second, like you want them to learn it.
Yeah.
Even the second they're already out of everything, but for.
so
they go to
first,
class.
second, and self-disclosure, and that's mandatory that they have to go through the class.
Yep.
Are we doing that?
I think we,
So that's the motion.
yeah,
That's the
Alright.
That's
Right?
Yeah.
That's the motion with those changes, right? What's that?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion with those set changes, adding, removing extracurricular programs, 6 through 12, and the additional things that we added on the first and second, and all the bullets, and the 33%.
Second.
Member Cisneros.
Yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes. President Rao.
yes.
Member Lovato.
Yes.
Very well.
Yeah, that's yours.
So once we got the
You gotta make the updates.
Finance, things spread out all over. Alright. So that's item A, go on to item B, discuss approved of disapprove second reading policy for armed security. So you, under this, make the separate policy and procedure.
Yep.
Right?
So that's based on any armed personnel in any building. It follows a state statute that they have to follow, and it has required trainings that they have to go through.
Do we gotta, I'm just saying, do we gotta approve at the board level those policies, right? No, those
No,
are
those-
implemented by.
State
by you?
Other states, yeah. Yeah,
Or
so-
this policy follows those, is all we gotta have in place.
I'd like to review those at least to see what it is.
The statutes.
Well, I know what the statutes are, but policy and procedure, it's just like our pursuit policy. We're mandated by the state to have it, but it can be restricted even further, just like anything else, so. I'd just like to see compared to Rio Rancho what their policy and procedures are. I seriously doubt it just says we'll follow state statute. Because there's mandatory trainings, but, and all that stuff.
Yeah, we
I'd
can
just
get-
like to see that.
We can get that, cause this policy actually, like I said, it came from APS and Rio Rancho. They both follow the same policy, so I can reach out to their chief and ask them for exactly what their policy is when it
Yeah.
comes, because they actually.
Procedures.
Yes, their procedures, they've actually offered like training for our officer to be able to get them done through, APS.
Oh, that's great, it's just, I wanna see the use of force policy, because the state's pretty, I know what state one is, but if we in turn have to say, well, before you use deadly force or physical force or anything like that, we want to implement a de-escalation process prior to, if you have the time or whatever, however it's worded. I just wanna see what kind of verbiage is in there,
Okay.
that's all. But I'm good with this one.
So you're good to approve for this, you just wanna see those,
I just wanted,
the documents that support
yeah,
it.
because this is saying that he's gonna develop a policy for it,
We can kind of amend those.
Do you wanna,
but we govern the policy.
you wanna review those other documents in the meeting? Or,
Well, I guess my question is, if we have to approve all the policies, and he's saying you're gonna write a policy, we would have to see those policies to approve them as well, right?
they'd have to come to the board.
Yeah, that's all I'm getting at. I'd like to see, this policy gives us the authority to allow him to be an armed security on our campus,
Right.
but
You wanna see the procedures.
yeah,
The processes, procedures, and the qualifications.
Yes.
You could approve this,
You
and
can put
then
that in a motion.
all that will be, you can amend those.
Yeah.
You can put that in a motion to approve this with the other stipulations.
I'll make a motion to approve this with the caveat of being able to see what the secondary policies are for that to be brought to the board.
Second. Member Lovato,
Yes.
President Rao,
Yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes, and Member Cisneros.
Yes.
Finance report,
Back to this recess class.
Right, yeah.
nothing I really read or see. We'll go to item D. Pre-approval list, requisitions over 2,500. First one is Staples Technology.
Yeah, we only have the one. So these are teacher, laptops. We are down to our last one. We did hire a new English, gifted, whatever.
Whatever.
We also-
He's your employee.
We also have, well, he has a lot of titles, that gentleman. So we did hire that new gentleman, so that's it. One of them, we were down to 3. We also hired a new person in the guard shack, and so that gave one to that individual as well. 6th grade, we actually do have a level 3 6th grade teacher that did accept, retired teacher out of Taos. Comes with a lot of experience, so she did accept the position, so we were able to fill that. So these would be to have, if we have one go down, we have a new staff member or something to that extent.
Is this comparable to what you have already, or?
It's the same thing. And part of this will be paid out of that, oh man, what is the name of that thing? ETC, emergency.
ECF?
Huh?
ECF?
ECF, there you go, emergency something other. So they'll match us up to, they'll match up to $400. So each one of these would actually come out to about $300 and some dollars, is what they'd come out to, that we would pay out of the.
400 each, don't they?
Yeah. This is what we used to pay. They reimbursed us for all the 100% on the Chromebooks and those type of things, so we didn't pay anything towards that.
So right now, everybody has one, but these are just in case.
We're one short.
Okay. They can't use Chromebooks?
No, not for some of that stuff,
Okay.
because they use them to broadcast into that, and the Chromebook doesn't broadcast into that. Chromebook don't have a hard drive built into it. It's all cloud-based.
How long will these last before we're?
3.
Yeah, more
Now,
than
in
3
the
years.
next 2 years, Apple will give us a better deal and buy
No,
our
we
Chromebook.
won't. We won't move back to Apple.
No, we're going back to yellow paper.
Pink, they're almost in pink.
Finalizing
It doesn't have, hey, with one of these, go to the Cooks.
That's what we're doing.
instead of that 32-inch curved screen.
Yeah, that was pretty nice request, but.
Yeah.
These are desktops or these are?
These are laptops.
Laptops.
So they're like this one over here that's being used for the meeting.
Let's do that one to the one that's missing.
Because I need it for
We don't need that.
I think that we should be giving them the tools that they need, and if that's a necessity, I'll make a motion to approve this one.
I'll second it, like the ECF's covering that.
Yeah, they cover up to
$400.
$400.
Member Lovato,
Yes.
President Rao,
Yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes, and Member Cisneros.
No. I'll explain
Why?
So if it comes out of SCG, how come the additional didn't come out of the tech money?
It can,
Well, that's not what it says here.
it can, we can bump that over.
Mr. President, just something to ask, and more asking the board members who have been here. I don't know if it's just me, but I like an explanation as to what they're going for on the requisitions. Just like before the meeting, I can see kind of what it's going to, why, and so on the, when they request something, I'd like to see the reason they're requesting it.
Oh.
On it. Just more for our knowledge, and that way it's, I've asked that a couple times, but if we can,
Per department.
yeah, you know, whatever request they have, why. Just that way we know a little bit more, then you're not having to sit here and explain that, we can just get that beforehand.
All right, moving on to, next item, I hear a motion to turn to executive.
Second. Member Cisneros.
Yes.
Secretary Cordova, yes. President Rao.
Yes.
Member Lovato.
Yes.
Oh, I can, you want to hit
Just hit stop.
Stop.
Didn't you mess it up last time?
No.